Welcome to our webinar. We're going to explore ways in which AI can drive revenue and reduce costs across all areas of the organisation. I'm joined this morning by our Head of Sales, Brian Smiley, and our Managing Director, John McGuire, who will talk us through the presentation this morning. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please add them to the Q&A section, as we'll go through those at the end of the presentation. John brings over 30 years of experience in driving innovation and change throughout technology and is passionate about the opportunities which AI presents. And I'll now hand over to him to lead the webinar this morning.
Thanks, Fiona. So thanks, everyone. So we're Pulsion Technology. I'm obviously John McGuire, Director at Pulsion Technology. We are, I suppose, a digital transformation business. So we're involved in software development. We're involved in kind of web, mobile, cloud, and artificial intelligence as well. There's obviously been a huge boom in artificial intelligence recently. So one of the reasons for this webinar is really just a lack of understanding really at the various opportunities that there are to use it within your business. Go on to just a quick overview of AI. So obviously AI has been around for quite a number of years. You've been using AI for a very long time probably, but you probably don't realise it. It's known as kind of machine learning in the past and under the general umbrella of artificial intelligence. Obviously ChatGPT and other models that have been released, AI technology has brought that really to kind of frenzy level over the last few years. I think it's probably about 2-3 years that when ChatGPT really made a splash in this field. We talked to a lot of people about AI, but most of those people really don't have a real idea of how to use it within their business. When we talk to folk, we've had potential clients say, well, it's not like it could predict when a customer's going to buy. Actually, it could. So there's a real misunderstanding, and people just look at ChatGPT and things like Copilot, etc., as really being the only AIs in the world, and that's not true. There's been a lot of AIs around before then, or certainly machine learning algorithms. So this is going to be very, very whistle stop. We talked about whether we do a deep presentation and go really deep into some technologies and do demos, etc., or whether we would actually just do a very wide presentation here. I think the fact is, given that there's so much misunderstandings about what AI can do, we thought we would pick 20 potential areas that you could use AI in. And what we've done is we have put those across different areas of business, things like marketing, sales, finance, operations, etc. So this will be very, very quick in order for us to keep within our 30-minute guidelines. So let's get started with idea number one. So in marketing, first one is content creation. With the rise of generative AI obviously creating things, you begin to see some quite spectacular content creation. So I've pretended that I run a company that makes tents or sells tents, and I've obviously got a website. My idea is that I want to write a blog for my website on camping trends in 2025, and obviously, as a lot of people might know, you can just go onto ChatGPT or Copilot and just create that straight off the bat. Takes you 5 minutes. Might be something that might take half a day or a day before for market people to do that, but you can certainly create that sort of content, and then generally you're tweaking it as a human there, just to get it with your correct company message on it. On the right hand side, I've got a picture of a tent in a snowfield here. This isn't a real photo, this is AI generated as well. So obviously you can generate images. So on this particular blog that I might be creating, I could just go off and say, as I have here, create me a tent in a snowfield so that it can accompany my blog. So I've created that image there. So this is what we mean by content creation. Create text, images, but you can also create here videos as well. So this is a video I'll just play the video just now. So this is a video that's actually been created just from a prompt. I think it took something like maybe a minute to generate. It lasts for 8 seconds. So the idea here is, I said, create me a video of 2 people in a field assembling a tent, a red tent. I actually told it so that you can actually, so I could perhaps use it in a promotional video or on social media or something like that. And it's effectively created that content. So you can create very, very sophisticated content incredibly quickly. I mean, if you look at the cost, if we talk about reduction in cost, the cost of this this video is like a few pennies, and 5 minutes of my time to create it. In fact, 5 minutes just waiting on the video to generate it, or a minute or 2 to generate it. So that's one idea from there. The next idea is in market research. So obviously in marketing, you want to find out about your market, and you want to do some almost like deep dives into the market. Traditionally, that would take a lot of Googling, a lot of looking at reports, pulling together a document to perhaps present to management. But with modern Gen AI, they've been trained on the entire internet, so they're doing all the research for you around the internet. So this is just I asked it for a 1-page. I think this is Copilot maybe here. I asked for a UK facilities management market overview. It's a market that we're interested in because of some products that we have, and it's given us back lots and lots of really useful information. I could have produced probably a 20-page report from here. I could ask it other questions. I could get it to produce other content in there by diving and doing deeper research. But yet again, very useful. Something that might take days or a week to pull together all this data is now literally minutes away, and a lot cheaper to do. Next area I'm going to talk about is analysis of customer feedback. So let's assume, or let's imagine that we run a hotel, or let's imagine we run a hotel. On the right-hand side here, we have a list of reviews. So these are reviews. It could be 500 reviews. It could be 500,000 reviews. So what you can do with modern AI is you can read all those. An AI model can read them all, and it can decide whether those reviews are positive or negative. So you can then kind of score your business saying 90% of people give us positive reviews. It's called sentiment analysis within the field of machine learning and artificial intelligence. But with modern models, you can go beyond that. So you can take those reviews and you can say, given all the negative reviews, please suggest some improvements that I can make to my hotel. So for example, here, on the left-hand side, we have a count of the number of mentions here and the areas for improvement. So I've asked it to order in order of things I should improve first. So cleanliness is number 1 there with 6 mentions in all the negative reviews. Staff service quality, 5 mentions. Maintenance facilities, another 5 mentions. So that's incredibly powerful. If you have 20,000 reviews, say, and you want to get some insights into it, those insights might take in the past people manually analysing data. But now with the capabilities of AI, especially in reading text, you can really have insights incredibly quickly. Personalised recommendations is another area that's quite a big area within artificial intelligence and machine learning. So reports suggest that in e-commerce, that companies which use recommendation engines to recommend other products, it might be cross-sell products, it might be alternatives to existing products, it might be bundles that they offer. There can be a 20 to 30% increase in sales because of those, according to some studies done. So effectively, no matter what you do, whether you sell books, holidays, financial products, etc., having recommendation engines that will recommend based on you as an individual are incredibly powerful. And there are recommendations engines out there that you can get on the cloud, and you can build into e-commerce sites or systems that you might have within your business. So let's look at sales now. So within sales, one area that's very big within AI is the area of personalization. Recommendation that I talked about before is in some ways an area of personalization. But what you begin to see is in the past, salespeople would do some research on a company or do some research on a sector. Or market people might do this as well, and then they would send more personalized emails. So what you're seeing here is an example of a professional indemnity insurance company who are trying to sell insurance, but rather than just sending out a generic message, what they're doing is having a personalized message for accounting companies and another personalized message for software companies. This could be done by sector, it could be done by individual, the demographics of the individual, hobbies of the individual. It could be based on, personalized based on time of day, based on whether it's a weekday or whether it's a weekend, those sort of things. So this sort of personalization of outreach messages is something that yet again increases sales. I think that some of the studies say you can have something like a 19% increase in sales through personalized outreach messaging. The other thing in sales is playbook automation. Lots of people have salespeople. Lots of people have playbooks. By playbooks, I mean a set of rules that here's how you should sell the product. Here's what you should do in certain situations. But you can automate that playbook. So you might have perhaps an inexperienced salesperson who gets into a situation with a customer where they might be on the cusp of a sale, but the customer's not quite signing up to a product or a service, so that you can have these automated AIs look at the previous interactions between the salesperson and the potential client, and then suggest basically a course of action for the salesperson. So it might be that they have to discount by a certain amount. It might be that they have to offer some sweeteners. It might be that they have to offer some sort of incentive to get the person on board as a customer rather than just a potential customer. So playbook automation is certainly an area that's actually quite growing, and there's quite a few products that now do this. Proposal generation in sales is another area. So you might have a business that looks at requests for information and tenders. So you might be dealing with public sector or big companies who put out a tender and you have to respond to it. So what you can do is you can make that a lot more efficient using an AI agent. I mean, we've been involved in tenders and proposals before for those, and it has been on occasions lots of midnight oil being built, actually pulling together, reading a question, answering a question, and how we would do that. So what you can do with an AI agent is you can get an agent that's trained on the previous RFIs or tenders that you have responded to, and trained on the proposals that you use for that response. So the AI agent has some knowledge of basically what you do. And the idea behind it is that those RFIs and tenders will have various sections like company questions, questions on your experience for doing this sort of work, questions on quality, financial questions, lots and lots of different types of questions. And generally in RFIs and tenders, they're not in a standard format. Everybody who releases a tender probably has a slightly different format. But what the AI agent can do is it can answer all those questions, because it will read the question from the tender, look at the RFI and proposals, and then get the right answer for that tender response there. Yet again, huge time saver there. Churn prediction is another area. They're looking at churn prediction, really identifying patterns of decreased engagement from your clients and proactively intervening. So the idea is that you're finding out that clients are beginning to exhibit behaviour whereby they might leave you. For example, say you've got a mobile phone contract, and suddenly after the contract is up for renewal in 2 months, but suddenly the number of calls you make or all the calls just drop off a cliff and you're not making any calls. It might be that maybe you might have already churned at that point. But it might be that you can look at a decline in calls, or you can look at some other historical interaction that actually gives an indication that somebody might be about to leave, and then obviously you can intervene with an offer or a reminder, etc. there. So churn prediction, yet again, another area that can save people leaving your service or company. And it's one of these areas where if you can retain a customer, it's a lot cheaper than actually losing a customer and have to find a new one. Traditional area that's seen a lot of activity for AI is customer service as well. So you have traditional customer service chatbots. Chatbots get in a lot of occasions quite a bad name, because people are kind of used to the almost like hard-coded chatbots that were around, 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. Big companies have been using these for quite a while, but the level of sophistication has got a lot deeper and much better recently. I mean, this is a example of an agent that's actually been trained to answer questions on the offerings of a company. I just chose an AI development company here. So this is an actual real scenario whereby the user has asked, I'm looking for a company to undertake AI development. Can you tell me about your capabilities, please? And what this done is it's trained on the website of the company. So what it can do is it can go to the website, it can ingest it, the AI kind of reads the website, understands it, and then it can produce a response to those sort of questions. You can also get chatbots as well that will go off and actually interact with back-end systems. So you can place orders, it can look up details of previous support queries that you might have had, etc. So chatbots are getting a lot more sophisticated than they used to be. So I would certainly keep an open mind with modern chatbots versus the chatbots that you saw maybe 5 years ago, which I think put a lot of people off interacting with chatbots. Another area which is kind of similar to prediction as churn is predictive support. So this is an area of customer service and support, but what you're looking for here is you're beginning to, you're not identifying whether a customer will leave or not. It's almost earlier than that. You're identifying whether a customer has problems. So it might be that they're interacting with your website looking for help for something. It might be that you have a software product and they're interacting with the help manual within that product. But basically, they're just looking. The AI has learned various patterns of behavior before a customer would traditionally contact customer support. And the idea is that in terms of a timeline, you're trying to move that intervention earlier on. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to see the customer struggling, and then you're trying to intervene to help out. Very similar, I suppose, to you see people in a shop, like a shop assistant, a kind of retail assistant, who might see somebody looking around, struggling for something, who can't find something, and a person would go up and say, can I help you? You seem to be looking for something here. This is the AI equivalent of that. So yet again, very useful. Voice assistants and avatars, you will absolutely see this grow exponentially in the next couple of years, probably. This is a Microsoft avatar. It's a voice avatar, so you can talk to the Microsoft avatar. You can talk to it, and you can do things like order. You can connect these through the software development. You can connect these to back-end systems. So you can ask it to do tasks for you. You can ask it to answer questions. It can be used for things like training. It could be used for things like sales coaching, for example, as well. But generally for customer service, it's kind of like having a virtual agent. You can actually record your own actor, your own person. So I could appear, I don't know why you'd ever want this, but I could appear in a video as an AI by taking a video of myself, uploading it to this avatar technology, and it would have me speaking in customer service. So these will be huge. Not only can they do this in English, though, they can do real-time language translation. So there are demos out there of the avatar answering questions in English, obviously, but also answering it Spanish, Italian, Chinese, etc. And so you can effectively do global support using these avatars with an AI engine behind it. So you don't perhaps need to employ somebody who speaks Italian or speaks German or whatever. You can actually somebody can speak in German and it can respond in German. So and one avatar can speak more languages than any human can speak. So yet again, I think you'll see a lot of this. Really depends on your market and obviously where you are, but very, very useful if you plan to go international. The next area I'll look at is operations. Obviously, operations depends very much on what business you're in. But within here, I'm going to talk about AI agents. AI agents, yet again, will be absolutely huge. So if you've used generative AI, the best example, or a metaphorical example, would be I can ask a generative AI to give me a recipe for a cake, and it will give me a recipe for a cake, but I have to bake the cake myself. And I'll say metaphorically here because I don't know any AI agents that actually bake yet. But an AI agent, if I ask an AI agent something, I can ask it to go bake a cake. And it would give me a cake back. Obviously, it's doing this digitally. So what I'm showing here is an AI agent that has access to, let's say, a field service system, access to a finance system, and access to a web portal. So let's assume this is a company that services gas boilers or does some other kind of field service type work. The idea here is that the AI agent can basically execute a business process, but execute it intelligently. So it can look at field service system, it can plan jobs, execute jobs, it can then see that job's been done. It can then raise an invoice in the finance system. It can then perhaps put the outcome of that job on a client portal so that management at your client company can log in and find out what the problems were with their gas boiler, whatever. So AI agents, you've probably seen this, perhaps if you follow any of the people at OpenAI, but AI agents are creating a lot of buzz at the minute, and they are the next generation of AI. One other area in operations is resource workforce optimization. In fact, any sort of optimization. So the idea here is almost similar to just a deeper level than that last AI agent I discussed there. This is an AI agent that looks at workers, looks at jobs that could be assigned to those workers, and then determines what the best jobs are to give to the best workers. So it's really trying to optimize, say, travel time. Perhaps it's trying to optimize profitability, whatever, but it's been given a goal to optimize there. And what it does is it assigns each worker to each job. And this is just an example of workers, so it might be that worker 1 does all the jobs in Glasgow, worker 2 does all the jobs in Edinburgh. We're based in Scotland here, so these would be kind of cities that you might decide to assign workers to. But it would also look at in real time things like traffic. It would also look at holidays of workers, skill sets of workers. So very similar to having a person doing this job, except you can do it automatically. You can do it 24/7. You can do it in real time. Big companies use this for even optimizing, things like shipping routes, like logistics, etc. Those kind of things. So it's not just workers. It depends what you're doing. Demand forecasting is another area. So demand forecasting, you might have like seasonal products that you sell here, and you want to forecast in the future what's going on. So you'll see this a seasonal cycle of, okay, it's supposed to be ice cream sales. You'll see that we sell more ice cream in the summer in this example. But you'll find supermarkets, for example, using this sort of technology to look at demand. How many burgers and sausages should they order to come in on a Friday when there's going to be a 24-degree centigrade weather forecast in the UK? So obviously the AI can look at things like weather, it can look at previous demand and previous weather patterns, and it decides that actually that it's going to be a hot summer weekend, so barbecues will be a big thing, and there'll be a lot of demand for, let's say, sausages and beef burgers, etc. So demand forecasting, not just used by supermarkets, used by lots of different sectors to forecast demand. Auditing review, another area that people kind of miss here is that a lot of time people will write documents and then people will review documents. So, and sometimes those will be reviewed against audit guidelines. So let's assume you've got document or documents there on the left-hand side of this presentation. Let's assume it's a proposal you're producing, but you might have some guidelines for your proposal and audit guidelines. So what you can do is you can train an AI agent to have knowledge of those guidelines and then to review a document against that and produce a set of outputs. So it would produce audit results. So it might be that you've forgot to include the team that are going to be involved in this project that you're writing a proposal for. So the audit guidelines would say you must mention the team, and the audit results would produce a non-compliance there to say you forgot to mention that. So it's almost a step, almost before very senior people sometimes review these documents. It's a step whereby an AI agent could actually highlight some of the issues. So finally, I think we're going to look at financing, AR finance within companies, just the finance department. This is probably the driest part of the presentation, certainly for me, but there's certainly a few things you can do in finance that are quite interesting with AI. So fraud detection, anomaly detection is quite a big thing. Anomaly detection is a common use of AI machine learning. So you see here we have a table of transactions. This is supposed to be a bank, but don't let the fact that it's not just banks that can use this. So the idea is that it will look at the amount, the location, time of day, and determine whether a transaction looks normal or whether it looks fraudulent. And you see we've got an anomaly flag on the column in the right-hand side. So this could be used for things like expenses claims. It could be used for, financial transactions, looking for duplicates, looking for unusual activity within your company just by looking at your bank transactions or just transactions in your accounting system here. So fraud detection, anomaly detection, a big thing. Financial forecasting, very similar to demand forecasting. Effectively, it's really just looking at this showing like cash flow forecast here. The idea is that you're looking at cash flow forecast because you don't want to go into the red, you don't want to overdraw within your company. So yet again, the algorithm is going forward in time using historic data, and it's beginning to predict what you might spend and what you might take in over a series, over a series of months. And it can also look at that per line item. So it can say, project your expenses on, paper clips or internet usage or whatever there. So another prediction algorithm, yet again, standard forecasting tools out there as well. Most of the cloud providers provide AI models that certainly we've used that allow you to do forecasting. Another use is spend analysis and price benchmarking. So I did mention that AIs can connect to other systems. So it might be if let's say you're a manufacturer and you've got prices that you get, you build something and you have 100 parts that make up whatever you're building, and you have a price from a supplier for each of those. Well, how do you know you're getting the best price? Generally people are hunting around, buyers are hunting around looking for the best price, talking to folk. But you can also benchmark using an AI here. So you're seeing the latest AIs can go out to the internet and actually find things and look at prices, for example, on the internet. And you see price benchmarking, you might be selling things and you want to price benchmark against other companies to check that you're competitive as well. So you're seeing things like spend analysis, what you're spending the money on, and also price benchmarking being used more and more here. In fact, one of the software developers in our company uploaded a till receipt of his weekly shopping to one of the agents and asked it to go and find cheaper alternatives using the internet, and it came back with a list from various companies of his shopping basket, but cheaper there. So very, very interesting technology there, and I think something you'll see being used more and more. And finally, I think it's the last slide here, policies and controls. So you may have policies for things like expenses, for things like travel and hotels, and you want to enforce those. So generally, you could have quite a number of people within your company who are claiming expenses. So for this, you might have rules like you can't stay in a certain hotel, or if you're from Glasgow and you have a meeting in London between 10 and 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, you can't stay overnight on the Wednesday night there. So effectively here, you train an AI on all those rules, and then you look at the patterns. So you might take people's diaries in here, you might take expenses reports, you might take all sorts of data. And then what you're doing is you're looking at basically enforcing policies and looking at anomalies within those policies, flagging up suspicious activity, duplicate payments, all of those things there. So that's the last slide, I'm pretty sure here. So sorry if that was a whistle-stop tour. Hopefully, I'm sure some people will know a few of these things, maybe used a few themselves, but also hope that there's a few ideas in there that have given you some pause for thought about things that can perhaps be of use within your organisation. So I'll hand back to Fiona from here, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks, John. Some interesting topics there. As you said, a whistle-stop tour around them this morning. We'll move on to some questions that we've got from the audience. So first is, of the examples you have provided, which one do you think delivers the fastest ROI for small or medium-sized businesses who are just starting out with AI?
I think there's no one answer to that. I think it really depends on the actual business. What I would say is, I think businesses should start. I think many kind of small, medium-sized businesses people just inverted commas do stuff. It's like people have job roles and they do things. Very few people actually look at the cost of doing that, especially the cost of a human providing that service to the company. How much does customer service cost you? How much is sales? How much is marketing cost you? So in terms of a small company, I would say one of the things you do is look at your processes and how much each process is costing you, especially if you want to save money. If we're talking about saving money here, if you're trying to increase sales, then certainly some of the things like content creation and increasing sales and marketing, some of the areas around sales and marketing would probably be areas that I would look at to actually increase sales, really. So there's no one answer, but those are the areas I would look at as a small, medium company.
Thanks. And also, how can businesses measure the real financial impact of AI initiatives, especially when some benefits such as efficiency or customer experience are quite hard to quantify?
Yeah, so I think customer experience can sometimes be quite difficult to quantify. You can look at things like customer engagement there as well. I think efficiency is a bit easier because you can look at, let's say a company has 6 people in customer service and services 10,000 clients, say, for example, then you can obviously project that if you serve 20,000 clients rather than 10,000, you might have double the number of people in customer service. And you can measure the efficiency because you have the costs, the salaries of those. So you can kind of work out how much customer service costs per customer. But once you add AIs into that experience, let's say you can still have 6 people, but you can service double the number of customers there. So your customer service cost is halved there. So I think there's a lot of process analysis in there and costing of processes. And that's where I say you have to understand the processes that you do. You have to understand the steps in them. You have to understand how much each process costs the company. And then certainly in terms of efficiency, then you have to look at how you can make things more efficient using AIs.
Okay. And also, is there any AI assistant which can be a secretary to create proposals, help with HR stuff, or helping to create bidding proposals for a business?
So there's obviously there's things like ChatGPT, etc., but they don't do it in a detailed sense. You can produce that, but it's not trained on the RFIs and the proposals that you have actually created. You can do this in various ways. You can pull together. We've looked at it ourselves. Pull together stitching a software proposal document, and training an AI to basically fill out that response document. So I don't know of any kind of straight off the shelf solutions for that, because there are some solutions out there that can do it partially and do some things there, but I'm not absolutely certain. It really depends on what the client requirements are there, if that makes sense, for different people. And it also depends on how many examples you've got of RFIs and tenders and on proposals, because you have to kind of train the AI on the basically the input, which would be the RFI or the tender, and the output, which would basically be your response to the tender.
Okay. And also, could you share any examples of common mistakes that companies have made when starting out on a project to implement AI, and how can they avoid them?
I think so that there was a news article that came out a few weeks ago, I think it's a few weeks ago, about how companies failed in AI and how the AI projects were failing at a kind of high level percentage. So that's quite, for people in AI, that's quite a kind of depressing stat. The same evening I was planning a holiday where I'm doing a kind of road trip, and I went on to one of the AI models and just asked it to produce me an itinerary for the holiday over like 2 weeks, traveling around between places, and where I would stay and how much it would cost me and how much car hire would be, etc. And it produced amazing results there. That would be something that I've planned in the past in previous holidays, and it takes days or weeks. So to me the news that AI projects fail is more to do with the people who implement those projects than the actual technology itself. People are doing quite difficult things with AI, and it is moving a lot there. It's moving forward pretty quickly. So there's definitely a kind of sense that people are learning as they go along. So my advice to people would be, say common mistakes are trying to do everything or do too much too soon. My advice is always to start small, have kind of small proof of concept projects, and then move on from there. Some of the things we've done internally have been proof of concept that has then just basically grown from there. So you want there's a strategy called lean startup, whereby you fail fast, fail cheap kind of type thing. And I think you you should apply that to any AI projects you're undertaking as well. Just try and build something small initially. It won't be perfect, but it checks that what you're trying to do might be possible, and then you can refine it from there. So I would say people bite off more than they can chew. Do too big too soon. They should actually do smaller things. That's where most of the common mistakes are, in my opinion.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our webinar for today, if that's all the questions. But if you do want to explore any of the topics or use cases in more detail, then Brian's available and happy to discuss those with you offline in a bit more detail. If you want to add anything to that, Brian?
No, just thanks everyone for attending. Yeah, and if you want a more sort of detailed or specific discussion, just feel free to get in contact. That'd be ideal.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.